Hello, dear all, dear authors and invited guests. Welcome to Technical Session 5A. Good afternoon to all. On behalf of Global Knowledge Research Foundation, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 6th International Conference on Information and Communication Technology for Competitive Strategies, in concurrent with the 6th International Conference on Smart Trends for Computing and Communication through Zoom. We appreciate all the participants on this platform to go along with us digitally in these unpredictable circumstances of COVID-19. We hope you will enjoy the knowledgeable and informative session. Just before we get started, I would like to introduce you all to the chair for the session, Dr. Ritu Bhargava. Dr. Ritu has 18 years of experience in teaching in the field of computer science and engineering at Sophia Girls College, Ajmer. She completed her PhD from Hemchandracharya North Gujarat University, Patan. She has a strong technical skills in data mining, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. Thank you, ma'am. And before we get started the session, I would like to give you a note to the presenter that you will be given 8 minutes for the presentation and 2 minutes for the question and answers. In the 7 minutes, I will raise a gentle reminder. And I request while the presentation is going on, other participants kindly be muted. And now I would like to start our session 5A. Our first presenter is Nisha, and her paper title is Anonymization of Multi-Relation Datasets Using Single Table Algorithms.
Yes, good afternoon to all. Can I present my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
I hope my screen is visible to all.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
So good afternoon to all. My name is Nisha. I am a PhD scholar in Department of Computer Science, University of Delhi. My paper title is Anonymization of Multi-Relation Dataset Using Single Table Algorithms, and the paper ID is 21. My co-authors are Professor Archana Singhal and Professor Sunil Kumar Mattu. So firstly, I want to introduce about the learning analytics. In recent years, there has been an increasing interest of automatic analysis of educational data to improve the learning and teaching experiences. So basically, there is an emerging field which use analytical tools to improve the education and learning is called learning analytics. So the aim of learning analytics is to improve the teaching and learning practices, and it also provide models to the stakeholders for improving teaching, learning, effective organization, and decision making. But for analysis purpose, we have to share the data with the third party that is called the data analyst, and that will create the privacy risk for the data subjects whose data we are going to use for the analysis purpose. So for before sharing that data, we want to apply some privacy preserving algorithm to that data. So there are some privacy preserving techniques available. First is the k-anonymization. K-anonymization is the most popular privacy preserving technique, which states that in the anonymized data set or the published data set, every record has to be indistinguishable from at least k-1 other records with respect to the quasi identifiers. So we have two tools for the anonymization. First is generalization and second is suppression. Generalization basically replaces the more specific values with the more general values. For example, like we have course ID CS305, we can replace it with the CS third year or CS3 star star. And suppression basically deletes the information which is present in the original data set. So this is one example of k-anonymization. And this, the first table is the original data set. And in the second table is the two anonymized data set. In this table, this is too anonymous because the value of k is 2. That means there are at least two tuples which have the same value with respect to the Cauchy identifier. So in this table, age, gender, and course are the Cauchy identifier. So it is little bit difficult for the adversary to fetch the information of any user directly from the anonymized database. Then we have huge amount of data. So it is not possible every time to represent the data in a single table. So we can have the data in the multi-relational data set. So this is one example of multi-relational data set. But can we apply the single table anonymization methods to the multi-relational data set? So we will discuss about that. So we have two techniques. First is the universal table anonymization, and second is the bitmap representation. The first step of both the technique is to convert the data set, multi-relational data set, into single table, and then we can apply the anonymization. So firstly, the universal table anonymization. In this, we converted the multi-relational data set into the single universal table, and after that we apply the anonymization. But this technique has some drawbacks. First is it does not provide the privacy to data. In this table, we can see that if we have the information that one student is having two science courses and one language course, then that will map to the student S1, and the advisory can directly fetch the grade of that student. So, and this problem is because the single anonymization algorithm does not consider that there can be multiple tuples exist in a table for a single entity. So that is why this is a problem. This problem exists. Second, we can anonymize the sensitive attribute or the joining attribute, which is the SID. But if we anonymize that attribute or we remove that attribute, then it will affect the structure of the data. And we can also lose the 1:n and n:n relationship between the attributes. Like if one student having multiple courses, then that information will be lost. Another is the bitmap representation. In bitmap representation, we have to convert the multi-relation data set into the bitmap representation. In this, we use two values, 1 and 0. So if an attribute is possessed by an entity, then we have to place 1 for that in this table. And if attribute does not possess by any entity, then we have to place the 0. So this 4A table is the bitmap representation of the multi-relation data set, which I have shown. This is the two anonymized version of the 4A table. But this approach is also have some problems. Generally, the database is stored in the relational database, and the conversion to the bitmap representation has additional cost, storage, and time. And every relational database cannot be converted into the bitmap representation also. And bitmap representation basically use a separation technique to for the anonymization, and this will this can also this removes the certainty of the tuples. So basically, if we have two students, one is studying the physics and second is studying the chemistry, then we can generalize it into the science paper. But with bitmap representation, it basically replaced both the values with the star. That means we can, in total, we can say that S1 and S2 has two papers. So this removes the certainty of tuples, and it also does not consider the data at the tail of the nested relation. So if we have information of book also, then we can save the information of book if we anonymize the course attribute. But bitmap representation does not do that. So this is the problem with the bitmap representation. So we propose the one multi-relational anonymization technique, in which we convert the multi-relation data set into hierarchical representation, and after that we apply the anonymization using suppression and generalization and suppression. And for generalization and suppression, we use the domain generalization hierarchy of attribute. So this is the hierarchical representation of two students, S1 and S2. S1 is having three subjects, mathematics, English, and physics. And S2 also has three subjects, computer science, Hindi, physics. And we also have the information of books of each subject. And figure 1b shows the anonymized table of anonymized version of S1 and S2. So we basically anonymize the data with the help of domain generalization hierarchy. So in this, we have domain generalization hierarchy of course as well as book. So like in the first figure, you can see that if we have one course as mathematics and second as computer science, then we can generalize the both courses and we can replace the value of these courses with the science attribute. So we have used a generalization hierarchy, and in this diagram, in this figure, S1 is having mathematics and S2 has computer science. Then we generalize the value of these courses and we replace the value with the science in figure 1b. So likewise, we generalize all other courses. So we generalize by using the domain generalization hierarchy of the course and book. So this is the we have suggested one hierarchical representation approach to anonymize a multi-relation data set, which basically provides the privacy to data, and it also maintains the utility of data. And multi-relation anonymization also consider the nested relation of entity. So these are the references, and thank you. So this is all about the presentation. If you have any question, you can ask me.
Thank you, Nisha, for such an innovative paper you have written. I congratulate you for the selection of your
Thank
paper
you.
in this journal, first of all. And I would like you to ask you a question that you have written this paper, anonymization of multi-relations data sets using single table algorithm. So what algorithm you have used in it? Which algorithm?
Ma'am, I have used the bitmap. Ma'am, basically these are the two techniques, universal table and bitmap representation for the single table.
Okay.
But these two techniques, algorithms have some problems. So we propose one multi-relation anonymization algorithm in which we use a generalization and separation basically to anonymize, and we use the hierarchical structure of data.
Right. So how will you implement this multi-relation anonymization?
Ma'am, we use the clustering technique also. Basically, we create the clusters on the basis of the value of k, and the entities which are close, we put that entity on the basis of the distance. We have to calculate the distance between the entities, and those entities which has a lesser distance, we put them into the cluster, and then we apply the anonymization on that. So by this, we maintain the utility of data also, and we have used one cost matrix, which is called the LM cost matrix, to measure the utility of data. So that basically tells if the cost of the anonymized data set is less, then that means that will also maintain the utility of data.
Right. Good initiation. Congrats, Nisha, once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ronak Kumar Patel, are you ready to give your presentation?
Yes, ma'am, I am ready.
Kindly share your screen.
Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes,
It's visible. It's visible, Ronak.
So good afternoon, everyone. So today I'm Ronak Patel, and with me the another author, that is Samal Shah. We are going to present on imbibing auxiliary information using transfer learning to improve collaborative filtering based recommender system. So this is the outline for today's presentation: introduction, motivation, proposed methodology, result analysis, conclusion and future work, and then references. So recommender system you find everywhere, right? From e-commerce to anywhere you go, you will find the recommender systems, and it adds the service provider as well as the service consumer. So recommender system play a vital role in deciding what the user will listen, watch, or buy. The recommender system understands user preference and accordingly suggests new product or services to the users. So Amazon, Flipkart, Spotify, everywhere you will find recommender system. So traditional recommender system utilize the user provided ratings. So usually we provide rating from 1 to 5. That rating of products were used or services, right? So for recommending new products or services to users. So what motivates us to use the auxiliary information? So along with the ratings for each product, there are other informations those are available like images, genres, brand, videos, reviews, right? So these informations are available with rating as well. So it's possible to improve the recommending strength of recommender system by incorporating not only ratings but also those attributes. So whenever we search something or look for something, we look to images first, right? So then we end up that why we cannot add images with rating to improve the recommender system. So images of the products or services are crucial to the user in deciding whether they will purchase, watch or listen to a product or service. Basically, images are more important in e-commerce. We buy something by looking those items first. Then we will see review, rating and all. So what we have proposed. So we have taken the Amazon closed source jewelry data set. So in that data set, ratings are available, images are available. There are other attributes as well, but right now we have focused on visual features. So this user item rating, this component will focus on rating part. The another item ratings, this item ratings, this item images, this we will use to enhance the recommender system. How? So for that we have trained the CNN. Now here the concept of transfer learning comes. We are not directly taken the CNN model, pre-trained model. Rather, we have trained the CNN model on another fashion product dataset that is from Myntra. On that, this CNN model was trained, and after that, the features from this Amazon image dataset were taken through this CNN, and then these extracted features, visual features, and these rating features are combined, and those combined features were given for rating prediction. Now here, let me give you some brief about this IBCF. So in collaborative filtering, recommender system has 3 categories: collaborative filtering, content-based and hybrid. Right now we are concentrating on collaborative filtering. In collaborative filtering, we have 2 types: user-based and item-based. And right now our focus is on item-based collaborative filtering. So in item-based collaborative filtering, once we have ratings and visual features with the past rating of that particular items or for particular users, we can personalize this recommendation and we can predict ratings for that target user. And the product getting high rating, we can recommend those products to that particular users, right? So this is our proposed model, and then we have checked whether what we are thinking is right or not. So we have experimented that, and this is the similarity measure matrix which we have used to calculate the similarity between products, because right now our focus is item based collaborative filtering. And then this is the formula to calculate the rating of product for particular users. So U is user, X is particular product. So 3 methods we have checked. One is traditional collaborative filtering, which use only rating. Second is with visual features, purely based on visual features, no any other thing in that. And the third is combination of this method 1 and method 2 means rating and visual features both. So then we have used this MAE and RMSE to check the proposed model, and we have seen that there is an improvement in MAE and RMSE when we fuse this rating and visual features. You can see from this table 1 and table 2, we our proposed method shown some improvement, right? So we can say that when you fuse with different features, definitely you get some good result, right? So this is a result analysis. So this research conclude that utilizing image feature along with the ratings definitely improves the traditional collaborative filtering recommender system because you are adding something. CNN are essential in this process because CNN is proved to get visual features, right? And as the ImageNet competition and all, they have given so many trained CNN model as well. So in extracting image features and with the help of this transfer learning, we have used this transfer learning method. We have not used any pre-trained model here. We have checked method with pre-trained model as well. But as that model is trained on ImageNet dataset, this is very large. And our focus is particularly on the e-commerce, and in e-commerce particularly clothing, shoes and jewelry, right? And in that we see that results are improving, and this result was based on fashion product, and the same can be implemented for other product and services as well. So these are the references. Thank you. For any help or you want collaboration in recommendation, deep learning, ML, you can connect with us. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Ronak. You have really done a good work. So I wanted to ask you, what is the size of your data set, which you have compared?
Yes.
Yes.
So if I talk in terms of images, so there are
Yes.
total 23,000 images were there. The basic,
Okay.
the data set contains 15 lakhs images, but
15.
out, yes,
Okay.
15 lakhs, but we need to reduce it to 23,000 because for those images, some images ratings were not available and all. So after those pre-processing step, we end up with 23,000 images.
Okay. So from where you have taken this data set?
So it's a data set is available publicly. I will share the link as well. The Amazon data set.
Okay. From where? From which site you have taken?
It is from author's website.
Achha, okay. So you said that that okay. Okay, this repository from
Yes.
Amazon you have taken. Okay, so I think that this data is not means complete. That means it can have many noisy data also. So you must have cleaned it before using it.
No, ma'am.
Means using it in your research. Yes. How you have removed the noises from this data set?
Basically, noise is not there, but what happened that there is a pure rating only data set over there, which consists 15 lakh products and all. Now for each product, they also give the visual feature, and those visual features they have taken from VGG 16 or 19 model, and they are also given the URL. And from those URL, we have downloaded this 15 lakhs images. But after that, when we have checked this, that the ratings are matching with images or not. And for some images also, the images was corrupted. Means we are not getting proper images as well.
Yes,
So
that's what I'm asking you. When you have such kind of missing data problems, and
Yes.
where the images are not proper,
Mm.
then what method you have used? Like, you must have also applied clustering, है ना? इसमें clustering भी use किया होगा थोड़ा?
Amen. So we are
हाँ.
not gone for clustering. Just for
Hmm.
corrupted image, we have just
हाँ.
checked how many images that have size less than 1 KB or equal to 1 KB. So
Okay.
such images we have just moved, because if the image is proper, then it has a size greater than 1 KB.
Right. So again, I must say you have worked really good. And one more thing I wanted to ask,
Yes.
like, have you tried this model for video also?
No, ma'am. Video we have not tried, but we are working on text on review.
Okay. So you can take it forward once you've done with your one with the images recommendation system, then you can go for video recommendations also.
Yes, ma'am. And for video also, the YouTube 8M dataset is available.
Okay.
Video.
Right.
They have like open for public.
So there's a lot of flexibility I can see in your paper. You can take it, means you can continue it in different
Yes, ma'am.
forms, like, so you can extend your work.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Good luck, Ronak.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay, so moving forward for our next presenter is Irfana Parveen, and her paper title is Internet of Things, a review on its application. Irfana, you may please start your presentation.
Can you hear me
Yes,
and my screen?
yes, it is visible.
Okay, fine. Okay, so a warm good afternoon to everyone who is there. And I'm Irfana Parveen. I'm an MTech student. I'm from Sahodaya College, which is in Kerala. So today I had come for presenting my paper, Internet of Things, and it is mainly focused on review of its application area. So I have taken recent papers of 2020 to 2021 and came to know what is recently happening in IoT field. So we can go to our paper. So I've been telling about the introductory part, their application, mainly 5 application area, finally issues and challenges, conclusion and reference. Next, introduction, we already know that what is IoT, right? IoT means it's the Internet of Things, or we can say it is a billion of objects connected together, or we can say it's a network of smart objects. So what are the core components of the Internet of Things? We can say it is the sensors are there, its connections are there, and there are data processing, and finally there is an end user. So what is the process taking place in IoT? The data is collected by sensors which are sent to cloud. How the sensors and cloud are connected, thereby maybe Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or some internet connection. And once these data reaches the cloud, what happens is which will be giving to the end users. So this is a simple process which is taking place in every IoT devices. Next, we can go to what is the brief history of IoT. Okay. So we know that even though 2 decades above this IoT has come, we came to recently, I think after 2005, we came to know about IoT. So even though in 1999, the Kevin Ashton has introduced this term Internet of Things, during 2008 to 2009, the Internet of Things was born. So according to Cisco analysis, in 2003, there are 500 million interactive devices, but by 2025, it will be become 75.44 billion connected devices. So I already say that my paper is mainly focused on the review of application area. So I'm taking 5 applications. First one is smart home. Next one is smart healthcare. Third one is smart farming. Fourth one, smart city. Fifth one is smart industry. Now we can go to smart home. So smart home, we know that for what we need a smart home, right? The people who is residing in that smart home should have comfort and should have security. For that main purpose, we use the term smart home. It is also referred as home automation. What are the simple examples of this smart home? Our smart TV, smart lights, smart parking, smart security cameras, all are the examples of smart home. So when we say about smart home, we will be clicking about the smart lock, which is commonly available in everywhere. So smart lock means it is an electromechanical lock for which we automatically locks and unlock without physical interactions. So recent researchers is one of the recent researchers in smart home is this SCM. SCM means smart energy management to monitor energy consumption. What they are doing in SCM means we know that some machines like refrigerator or wash machine and all will be having more energy consumption during night days than the days. So this smart energy management system, what they will do means they automatically make the working of these devices on those days and then the night days. So what happened? Our energy consumption can be reduced. Another research taking place in smart home is that they support elderly people. How they support elderly people? There are normal people and abnormal people in the elderly people. So if they will be giving a wristwatch which is having a sensors, and when they are having some abnormal actions, these sensors will detect it and will be giving alert to the relatives so that necessary actions can place. So these are the smart home researches taking place recently. Next one is about smart healthcare. We know that as the population increases, our health problems increases. So when we are having smart healthcare, it is much more useful for the doctors and also the hospital authorities. So smart healthcare is also called as Internet of Medical Things, or we can say as IOMT. We know that COVID-19, how it is taking place in our world. So the smart healthcare has have a great vital role in fighting COVID-19. How means we know that this COVID-19 persons cannot directly interact with each other, right? And the persons who is in touch with the COVID-19 patients also cannot interact with each other. So if this person is having IoT devices, we can understand their heartbeats, we can understand their fever, we can understand their oxygen level. So it can, if any variation in this, we can alert to the authorities and necessary actions takes place. So smart healthcare has played a great role in fighting COVID-19. And these are one of the researchers that is taking place in smart healthcare. That is, we have IoT devices for pulse rate of a person, and we have IoT devices for monitoring ECG. And even though we have IoT devices for predicting the stress type and even hypertension attacks. So these are the recent topics of smart healthcare. Next, we can go to smart farming. About smart farming, we know that India is one of the agricultural sector. So smart farming will make agriculture much more benefit for farmers as well as for food security. So smart agriculture and precision farmings are increase the quality of products and reduce the cost and waste. So in IoT, that means in smart farming, the IoT device is taking place in each and every sector of the smart farming. That is, from it monitor from crop yield to a fully grown plant. That is, it take information like temperature, moist, sunlight, humidity, water, soil, every information these IoT devices are detecting and providing to the smart farmers. Next one is precision agriculture. Precision agriculture means it is a concept based on observation and measurement. Next, the recent studies of smart farming is mainly focused on waste management. We know that in cities there will be dust bins. When it reach a level, what happens means they will, when it reach one level, the sensors will detect that level and it will inform the authorities. So authorities can come and do the waste management process. So that is one of the recent research taking place in smart farming. Next one, we go to smart city. Smart city means as population increases, we know that the demand for our resources also increases. So it is very helpful when we connect this IoT technology with smart cities. What are the main infrastructure of the smart city means? There will be sensors, actuators, machines, cabling, as well as fundamental ideas such as data. All this data analytics, feedback, and such all are combined in this smart city process. One of the example we all are aware of is intelligent parking system. And even though the smart city process has taken place in fighting COVID-19, like we'll be having closed circuit television cameras to detect which and all the persons are not wearing masks and can take actions against these people. So this is the research taking place in smart city. Next one is smart industry. We are aware of that smart industry. It is also called as industrial Internet of Things, or we can say this industry 4.0. When we heard about the smart industry, we can know that it's a combination of machines, computers, tools, sensors, and people. So to ensure the IoT security, we introduce a technology called blockchain. Blockchain is a technology we all are aware of. Or what we are mainly using for blockchain means it is a decentralized system for mainly for security. So these blockchain technology is mainly used in each and every sectors they are using. That is, it is used in healthcare industry, it is used in logistics, it is used in power industry, it is used in agriculture industry, it is all it is used in every industry, blockchain industry, blockchain. Mainly it is for what security purpose. Next, finally, we come to issues and challenges these IoT devices are facing. First one is interoperability. Second one is energy consumption. Third one is scalability. Next one is privacy. So we know that the IoT means what? It's a billions of devices connected each other, right? So what happens means energy consumption is more and lack of interoperability. What is interoperability? Interoperability means when these devices overlap each other, what happens means the operation should not take place correctly. Next is scalability of IoTs. IoT is having some problems for the adaptation of their environment. Security issue is the main issue that is facing by the IoT devices, and also IoT devices have low storage capacity, and we know that it in some IoT devices they run low quality software, and even though we know that it's a complex in nature, that are the issues and challenges faced by IoT devices. And finally, conclusion. So I have tell about what is meant by IoT, what are the background of IoT and its brief history. And I had focused on mainly on current research trends of IoT applications like smart farming, smart agriculture, smart home, etc. And also finally, I had discussed about challenges and issues faced by the connected devices. These are the references I have taken. And finally, thank you everyone. And any suggestions or any questions?
Congratulations, Irfana, Praveen.
Thank you, ma'am.
I wanted to ask you one question. What
Yes,
are
ma'am.
your findings in this paper?
Yeah, I have taken mainly 5 application area. That means 5 application area. Recent research is taking place in IoT. So one is this uh, waste management. It is taking place, and it is this IoT devices are greatly fighting in smart healthcare and smart city. That means for COVID-19 they are taking place. So these are the main things I had focused on.
But these things have been done by others. What you have done,
Yeah, yeah.
what you have find
I have
out,
not
and
done
what you have
anything.
analyzed.
Actually I have done a review on these papers. I have not done any project on based on these papers.
Okay, Irfana. So, Irfana, another question to you is, could you please tell me
Yes, ma'am.
what are the hardware and software
Yeah,
components for IoT?
yeah, hardware. We know that they are using sensors. Even our mobile phones are they using cameras, CCTVs. All this hardware are used in these papers. And software, I have not come to the project. I did not use anything.
Okay. Okay, good luck,
Okay,
Irfana.
thank you.
Okay, so moving forward for our next presenter is Jyotsna Gandhi, and her paper title is Reforming Title Deeds via Blockchain and Challenges Indian Perspective. I think so. Jyotsna is not here. Okay, so moving forward for our next presenter is Mehul Kapoor, and his paper title is Analysis of Various Security Schemes of Internet of Things. Mehul, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am there.
Okay.
Oh, is my screen is visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I'm also audible?
Yes.
Okay. So, good afternoon to all of you. I, Mr. Mehul Kapoor, Research Scholar, Department of Information Technology, UIT Punjab University, Chandigarh, along with the Dr. Puneet J. Kaur, Associate Professor, IT, UIT PU, Chandigarh. I have just reviewed on the various security schemes of the Internet of Things. That is, what is the Internet and the IoT security architecture and the application layer protocols. So, let us discuss one by one. So in this paper, I have covered the introduction and the IoT security, the layers of the IoT security, literature survey, application layer security and protocols, and then last is the conclusion. So very first is I am starting with the IoT. That is, what is the IoT? As we all know that IoT is the combination of the two words, that is the internet and the things. Where the internet is the, as we all know, the internet is a global system of internet protocols to communicate between a network and the devices, and the things refers to the machine to machine connectivity, where different devices means smart devices, sensors, softwares, and other devices that are embedded and other that are embedded with the sensors and other technologies for the purpose of exchanging the data over the devices with the help of the internet. The emergence of the IoT in many application sectors such as home automation, smart transportation system, wearable technologies for healthcare and industrial process management has changed the fundamental way we view and govern the physical environment. As we all know, the in today's life, the IoT is used in throughout our daily lives. When we talk about the home automation, so it enables actions to be automatically activated whenever a particular circumstance occurs. Example of the home automation is that the light of the house can be programmed to switch on off automatically when the person enters in a room. The next is the smart transportation system. It is a major component of the smart city, which is, and the smart city project is the sorry, and smart city is the project governed by the government of India, and they can resolve the many problems like the car accident, parking space, that how much space of parking are allotted, automatic fare collections, and etc. And the next is the healthcare. When we talk about the healthcare, the remote sensing, the remote patient monitoring is used for healthcare to collect the patient's heart rate, blood pressure, temperature, and other things on the using different devices like smart bands and smart watches. And when we talk about the industrial process, that it can involve monitoring and controlling systems, machines, and processes across a large number of industries. We have like chemical, oil, gas, plastic, food, and paper industry. And according to the estimations, the amount of IoT devices will reach about 35 billion by the end of the 2021. And when we talk about the end of 2024, I think it can be 83 billion connections throughout the whole world. So let us move on the next topic, that is the IoT security. So when we transfer the data over the internet, then security must be ensured. Then security must be ensured that the unauthorized attackers can attack our data. So the IoT security is an on-demand cloud subscription service designed to discover and protect the growing number of connected things on our network. Unlike IT devices such as laptop computers that perform a wide variety of tasks, IoT devices tend to be purpose-built with a narrowly defined set of functions, and it can involve adding connectivity to the system of interrelated computing devices, mechanical and digital machines, objects, and or peoples. And each things which we can refer as a device in the IoT is provided with a unique identifier and the ability to automatically transfer data over a network. The IoT device security must protect systems, networks, and data from a broad spectrum of IoT security attacks, which target different types of vulnerabilities. And it is a pay-as-you-go service we can use for the IoT security. And basically, it has a built-in set of function in IoT devices, and as a result of that, it can generate unique pattern of network behavior. So the IoT security here, we have the 4-layer architecture. That is, the very first is the perceptual layer security. Then next is the sport layer security, network layer security. The next is the sport layer security, and the next is the application layer security. So let us discuss one by one each layer. So when we talk about the perception layer, it is also known as physical layer, consists of a sensors and devices for sensing and collecting information over the internet. And eavesdropping is considered as an unauthorized real-time attack at which attacker can interrupt the private communication like phone calls, text messages, or video conferencing, etc. Means when we talk about the perception layer, it can simply manage the smart devices across the system, and the main function of the perception layer is to transform the analog signal to digital and the vice versa, and the different sensor actuators and devices are used in that layer. The next is the network layer. The database connection permits the perception of layer devices in network layer in order to perform various applications. Inside the application layer, several probable security drawbacks in which the operation of the entire Internet of Things architecture have cooperative are present at this layer, provides the connectivity to the other layers. So when we talk about the network layer security, so it is a connectivity layer between which provides the connection between the physical layer and the other layers of the IoT, and its main goal is to collect data from the physical layer and passes that data to the other layer with the help of different technologies like 3G, 4G, 5G, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Li-Fi, etc. And the different types of the attacks which can be occurs in network layer security. Security consists of the heterogeneity, RFID interference, node jamming, routing attacks, RFID spooling, etc. The next is the application layer, which the utilization of the Internet of Things can be done is known as the application layer. Generally, there are two kinds of visible attacks appear in application layer, and these attacks are based on encryption and the software. And these attacks are the authentic credential of the user disclosed through an attacker. And basically, application layer aids in procedures of analytics, device control, and reporting to end-to-end users. And the different attacks which are occurred in application layer consists of the data access, phishing attacks, malware active scripts, and the malicious attacks. The last layer of the IoT security architecture is the support layer. So a fourth layer is generated for the security purpose in the architecture of the security of Internet of Things. The direct transmission of information to the network layer leads to maximize the chances of the threats occurrence. A novel layer is suggested because of the limitation of the three-layer model. So this layer is used because of the limitation of the three-layer model, and there are the two tasks of the support layer. The very first is the information that are collected from the authentic user is validated, and the second task of the support layer is to send this information to the network layer for the further processing. And the different attacks which can be occurred in support layer can be includes data security, interoperability, cloud audits, virtualization, etc. So let us move on the literature survey. So when we talk about the IoT security, so these literature can describe the architecture of the IoT security, which I have given a presentation on that. The next author in 2020, this can be describe a security information regarding the devices of Internet of Things was enlarged, and that system was less expensive and flexible, but that was utilized to disseminate the security education. The next is the authors in 2018 established a SDN-based data transfer security model named MG model, whose major intent was to mitigate the network latency, and where MG means stands for the middle box guard, and the SDN defines as the software-defined network, and it can be decouples the traditional closed network into data plane, control plane, application plane, and enables logically centralized control and management of the whole network. The next author in 2020, the data aggregation technology was intended for considering the energy consumption and the security. And last, in the year 2020, the deep flow inspection approach was implemented for gathering and analyze the traffic in the IoT systems. So when we talk about our next topic, that is the application layer security and the protocols. So communication protocols on the application layers are as an essential part of the IoT system, since they can provide the foundation of all IoT and cloud edge interaction. So here we have different types of protocols which is used for the communication between the IoT. So let us discuss one by one each protocols. The very first protocol is that the message queue telemetry transportation, and it is a standard protocol accessible to messaging. And this protocol is now extensively used in IoT environment and is simple, lightweight, and suitable for IoT solution. And it offers several authentication and TLS-based encryption method. And basically, TLS-based encryption method is the symmetrical and the asymmetrical encryption method. And that its main challenge is to gather the statistics from many gadgets and delivery of its infrastructure, and it can get and connects gadgets and networks with the help of packages and the middlewares. The next is the COAP, that is stands from the constrained protocol, and it is an upcoming open protocol of web transmission. Although COAP has many features under the HTTP protocol, and it was especially intended for confined devices with limited energy capacity for storing, processing, and the transmission. So basically it can be specially designed for the restricted gadgets and designed for IoT system based on the HTTP protocols, and it can also make the use of the UDP, that is Uniform Data Transfer Protocol, for the lightweight implementation implementation of the protocols. The next is the advanced message queuing system, that is AMQP. So AMQP is an open commercial communication protocols that is based on the OASIS standard. The protocol provides advanced functionality and is now extensively utilized in various situations that need dependable asynchronous communication between the endpoints. So when we talk about the AMQP, that is the advanced messaging queuing system. So it consists of a hard and fast of components that saves and routes messages with a broker. So it consists of three activities, that is the exchange, message queue, and the binding. So when we talk about the exchange, so it can receive messages from the publisher, then the message queue. So message queue can store the message until they can process via the client, and then the last in the binding, in which they can build a connection between the message queue and the publisher. The next is the data distribution service, that is the DDS, where the DDS is an open management group defined data centric standard protocol. The protocol is typically used for the management of data interchange between lightweight devices and massive networks of high performance sensors. And in an industrial implementation such as air traffic control, smart grid management, transport, and healthcare services, DDS does not constitute a conventional IoT solution. Means when we discuss the data distribution service, so basically it is a high performance data exchange between the connected devices independent of the hardware and the software. And it is a brokerless service, where the AMQP is the broker service. So DDS is here the brokerless service, and it can provide a quality of service based upon the two layer, that is the DCPS and the DLRS, where DCPS stand for the data centric publish subscriber responsible for the resources, and the DLRL, that is the data local reconstruction layer, offers an interface for the DCPS layer. Then next is the XMPP, extensible messaging and presence protocol, and is an open XML technology for asynchronous real-time communication between two or more organizations. The XMPP protocol offers strong security features by supporting SASL for the authentication and the TLS for the data secrecy. However, the absence of end-to-end support for encryption renders the protocol susceptible to many kinds of attacks. So when we talk about the XMPP, it is a IoT communication. It is based upon the XML language, and it allows real-time exchange of structured but extensible data between two or more network clients, and it offers neither quality of service and neither end-to-end encryption. The last two protocols is
Dear
yes.
presenter, as we have limited time, so please speed up your
Yeah,
presentation.
I will conclude that. The last two protocol is that the MDNS, where the MDNS is a multicast domain name service and is an open protocol for service discovery, name resolution, and it does not provide any built-in security schemes. And the simple service discovery protocol basically is an open protocol used in home or small business networks for service discovery and advertising UPnP forum. So UPnP forum means universal plug and play, means it is possible to transparently plug and play devices without the need of the manual configuration. So conclusions, the choice of the application protocols that relies on the IoT will be relies on the type and the needs of the IoT systems. So MQTT and the COAP are especially suited for the services in restricted settings needing data gathering, and on the other contrary, the other protocols respond to particular service needs such as corporate messaging, presence, online detection, and the real-time exchanges. And to accomplish the security, high confidentiality and the integrity of the information is maintained, and the information related to that object which can be executed when needed is also created. The lightweight and the block encryption scheme is required to improve the security, and more research efforts should be focused on the privacy on the protocols. So in addition for the solution to the end-to-end security. So these are the references, and thank you.
Mehul,
Yes, ma'am.
am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Mehul, you have done a good research. So, but I hope that if you are writing a paper, you should implement something by yourself also. No? So that's
Yes,
the
ma'am.
thing.
Yes,
No?
ma'am. I have reviewed this whole the architecture of the IoT. This is my the topic, and further I will choose one layer, and on that layer I will implement the implement another. I can also do
Yes,
some
sir.
efforts for the implementation, and then I will publish another research paper on another conference or journal.
That would be much better. So, Mehul, one question from you.
Okay, ma'am.
On which layer, you have shown a different the layered architecture of for IoT. So, MQTT protocol works on which layer?
MQTT protocol basically works on the application layer.
Application layer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And okay, Mehul, it's fine. So, good luck for your research, and I would like to write another paper with more of your work.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Okay, so moving forward for our next presenter is Preeti Pillai, and her paper title is Traffic Sign Detection and Recognition.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you, sir. I'll just share my screen. Hello, sir. Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Can I leave?
Yes, you can.
So, good afternoon, all of you. I'm Preeti S. Pillai, and I'm presenting a paper on traffic sign detection and recognition. So, these are the contents of the presentation. We all know that traffic signs are installed to just guide or warn or to regulate the traffic signs to the driver. So they supply information to help the drivers. But if we see in real world, drivers usually don't pay attention to the road signs that are placed either to the left or to the right of the roads, especially during the night times when we have bad weather conditions. It's very difficult to recognize the traffic signs. Hence, we have a lot of motivation towards the self-driving cars nowadays. So like self-driving vehicles have gained a lot of attention in recent years. So in self-driving vehicles, vision-based solutions are one of the most important approaches that have been adopted. And in this paper, we have adopted a vision-based traffic sign detection and recognition system, which will aid the driver, which will aid actually the self-driving vehicle to avoid traffic hazards. And this system it is not only important in ADAS system, but it can also help in real world applications like scene understanding or monitoring the signs and other things. So the problem statement is basically to address the problem of traffic sign detection and also recognition. So the idea is to propose a framework to detect and classify the road sign and also convert it into text and audio form so that it helps in the perception of autonomous vehicles. So the objectives were to record the real-time data for detection and classification, then implement a robust algorithm for it, then convert the detection and recognition into text and audio to aid the autonomous vehicle, and then validate the algorithm. So this is a proposed framework. The input video is pre-processed to eliminate the noises and to make it compatible for the detection model. Then the color space conversions are done, and the segmentations of the images are done to identify the shapes. Then the feature extraction is done through the CNN model, and the traffic signs are recognized. Then the recognized traffic sign is converted to text and audio as well. So this is a flowchart for the implementation. So we have gathered the data set and we have labeled them using the online tool. So we have converted the data into number formats, and we have split it into the training data set and testing data set. We know that the standard procedure what is followed is converting 80% of the data to training and 20% for testing. And the model that we have used is VGG16, which is one of the powerful model for detection and recognition. And this model is saved. So using this model, we have used this model for traffic sign detection as well as recognition. So the training data set that we have collected, where we used our own customized data for which had 2000 plus images of 8 different classes. The classes that were considered were speed limit 40, 50, 60, then a U-turn, double bend sign, road joint, gap in the median, and side road on the left. So these were the classes that were considered for training, and the data set was constructed accordingly. And these are the samples of the data sets that were used. So in the pre-processing, the image, the video has been captured. So the video has been converted into frames, and then the frames are been resized to 224 cross 224 cross 3, because this is the dimension which the VGG16 model demands for. Then we have used the transfer CNN model, that is VGG16, which is basically a convolution neural network model, which has been trained and tested on the ImageNet dataset, and it has achieved a 92.7% accuracy. So this is the model which basically takes an input image and passes it through 16 different convolution neural networks. And at the end, we get a softmax network, which is basically the matrix of the probability score of the class to which the image belongs to. So highest the probability of a particular image, that is the class to which it belongs to. So that is a strategy. So the features of VGG16 are, it is also called as OxfordNet model, because it is named after the visual geometry group of Oxford, and it the number 16 in this abbreviation stands for 16 layers in the architecture with the different weights, and it only has its convolution layers and the pooling layers, and the kernel that it uses is of 3 cross 3 size, and the kernel for max pooling is 2 cross 2 size, and the total of 138 million parameters are considered for classifications, and it is trained on ImageNet dataset, and it has secured an accuracy of 92.7%. So these are some results. We have considered the Adams optimizer. So 1,47,400 change are the parameters that are considered. So after the training, we have secured an accuracy of 99.8% and a testing accuracy of 94.96% is secured. So these are the results of the training accuracy. We had trained the model for 50 different epochs, and after the 50 epochs, the accuracy was saturated. And these are the results. Actually, I actually had a video of that, but because my laptop crashed, I was not able to present it. So I've just taken a snapshot of the result. So we can see here wherever the traffic signs are detected, a bounding box is put across that, and it is also converted into the text form, that is just to give a visual representation to the driver, the road joint or U-turn, whatever signal which is trained for is recognized, it is converted into text form, and the same thing has also been converted into audio, but I'm not able to show the audio right now. So these are the results. Coming to the conclusion, so we have addressed the problem of traffic sign detection and recognition, and the model considered both the color and the shape features for detection, and for recognition we have used the VGG model, and the accuracy for training what we have achieved is 99.8%, and for testing we have achieved 94.6%. And whatever detection and recognition was done, it was converted into text and audio for a good visual representation. These are few of the references that we have referred for implementation. Thank you.
Preeti, indeed, it's a very good paper. You have written a very good paper.
Thank you, ma'am.
Preeti, you have worked on OpenCV software, right?
Yes, yes.
So have you tried it in MATLAB also?
No,
Why
no,
didn't
ma'am,
you
actually,
consider MATLAB?
Actually, we had considered MATLAB previously to just simulate few driving scenarios, but few of the packages were licensed there, so we could not implement that successfully. So we changed it to
Okay.
an open source platform, that is OpenCV.
Okay. So means the work which you have done in OpenCV,
Yeah.
in MATLAB, if you would have done it, so आपको ये means काफी और अच्छे इसके अंदर आपको results मिलते हैं.
Yes, yes,
And
ma'am. We are trying on it, ma'am.
uh,
Like once we get the licenses, we are trying to port it to MATLAB. We are trying to think how we
Hmm.
can optimize the architecture using MATLAB. We are thinking on that, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. And what programming language you have used here?
Python, ma'am.
Python.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Good. So very nice paper.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Shall I
Please, can
answer?
I continue working on it?
Yeah,
Preeti?
yeah, sure, ma'am. Yeah, sure.
Are
ma'am.
you doing research, PhD?
Yes, yes, ma'am. I'm doing research under the same topic, that is vehicle navigation and perception.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, ma'am.
Anna, you could take it forward. This
Yes,
topic is
yes,
good,
ma'am.
and you should try it using MATLAB.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so moving forward for our next presenter.
Sir, shall I share the screen? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is Vasant Baisan, and his paper title is Lung CT Scan Images Compression Using Innovative Transformation Approach. Vasant, are you there? I think he's not here. Okay, so moving forward for our next presenter is Bharti Chowk, and her paper title is
Hello?
Machine Learning. Hello?
Hello, sir. Sorry to interrupt. Shall I leave, sir?
Who's this?
This is Preeti, sir. Just now I presented my paper.
Yes, Preeti, you can.
Sir, and sorry, do we get the certificate online or how is that, sir?
So you will get the certificate within 2 working days.
2 working days. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Our next presenter is Bharti Chowk, and her paper title is Machine Learning Classifiers for Detecting Credit Card Fraudulent Transactions.
Very good afternoon to everyone.
Bharti, you may please start your presentation.
Yes. Sir, is my screen shared?
Yes, it is.
The topic for my presentation is machine learning classifiers for detection and prevention of credit card fraudulent transactions. So this is the presentation outline, which includes introduction, data sets used, data pre-processing, data encoding, hyperparameter optimization, machine learning classifiers, implementation and results, conclusion, and references. The introduction that includes that nowadays the credit card usage has increased significantly, which is a fast development of e-commerce and the internet. So as a consequence of enhanced credit card usage, the credit card fraud has also been substantially rise. So timely detection of fraudulent credit card transaction is a business critical and the challenging problem in our financial industries. So the credit card fraud detection with the machine learning is a process of data investigation by the data science team and the development of a model that will provide the best results in revealing and preventing the fraudulent transactions. These are the data sets. These are the data sets that I have used in this paper. The first one is the European credit card data sets, which contains the 31 numerical features, out of which 284 and 817 are the instances, and out of which number of fraud transactions are 492. The second data set is German credit card data set, which contains 22 features, out of which 5 are numerical and 17 are categorical. And the number of instances are 1000, out of which the number of fraudulent transactions are 300. This is the first phase of the machine learning classifier to get the input to the machine learning classifiers. The first one is data pre-processing, which includes data integration. That means integrating the data from many. I'm really sorry, sir. Integration of the data from various resources and bringing that integrated data into a common format. After that, we have a data cleaning that we deals with the missing data, removing the noise from the data, outliers, removing the outliers and dealing with the duplicate data. And after that, we have data transformation, that is feature scaling, dealing with categorical data, imbalanced data sets, feature engineering, and train test split of the data. After performing all these data cleaning and pre-processing tasks, the next task is to perform the data encoding, which requires to working with the categorical data, means to convert the categorical data into the numerical data. For this paper, I have implemented label encoding for encoding the categorical data. So after defining the data pre-processing and data encoding, next comes is the hyperparameter optimization. That is, hyperparameter tuning is to choosing the set of optimal parameters for learning an algorithm. Means the data which is best, the parameters which are best tuned to get the input to the model. So searching for the best hyperparameter model can be tedious ones. Hence the search algorithms like grid search, CV, and random search are used. These are the machine learning classifiers that I have implemented for this problem. First is logistic regression. Next is your linear discriminant analysis, naive Bayes, and the decision tree. This is the overall flowchart for this implementation that we have done. First, data pre-processing, encoding schemes for categorical features. After that, data balancing technique, as the data set is imbalanced. So we have applied the data balancing techniques. After that, the data set is divided into training and testing data using the train test split functions that is available in Python. And after on that, the training set, the machine learning algorithms have been developed. After that, a model evaluation and then prediction. So these are the results that I have used the parameter evaluations, that is accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 score. Performance analysis, that is without hyperparameter optimization on German dataset, and the same with your European dataset without hyperparameter optimization. And the performance analysis using hyperparameter optimization on German dataset and on the European dataset. So after applying all these results, that I'll get the good results in hyperparameter optimization on German dataset. And this is the one paper with which I have did the comparative analysis that decision tree classifier has a good accuracy for this among all these classifiers. So my proposed methodology has given the accuracy of 72.10%. Last is your conclusion that the credit card dataset was imported, pre-processed, encoded, and equipped for training the model using the machine learning workflow mechanisms. And the models are then verified using both hyperparameter optimization and non-hyperparameter optimization methods. And it was then trained, deployed, and assessed for each classification model using multiple parameters assumptions. And the decision tree classifier outperforms the LR, logistic regression, LDA, and naive Bayes algorithms in terms of performance. Next is these are the references that I have taken for my research. These are the references. Thank you, sir. Am I audible, ma'am, sir?
Yes, you are.
Hello?
Yes, you are.
Yes, yes, sir.
Any questions for Bharti?
Yes, Bharti,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
are audible. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
So,
should I share my screen, ma'am?
No, it's okay, Bharti.
Okay, fine.
Bharti, again, a very nice initiation
Yes,
in writing the research paper.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
I would like to congratulate for it.
Thank you so much.
You know that you have taken the data sets of German. Why
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
you have taken the data set of India?
Ma'am, that data set which is available for India is without any class label. That is, I can apply unsupervised learning algorithm on that.
You should have done that.
Yes, ma'am, I'll be doing that. For now, what I have done, I have just done with the supervised learning. That after means after taking the different models, now I have done ensembling and all that available other advanced algorithm in it. Then once I finished my supervised, then I'll go to the unsupervised learning.
Okay. And
Yes, ma'am.
you have taken, means you have compared between decision trees and naive Bayes,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
which model
Yeah.
is giving you more accuracy?
Ma'am,
Means
decision tree.
decision tree or
Decision
naive
tree.
Bayes?
Ma'am, decision tree is giving me good accuracy after hyperparameter optimization.
Okay. So naive Bayes, how much accuracy you are getting from naive Bayes?
Ma'am, just a second, ma'am. I actually don't remember the exact figure.
Okay.
Ma'am, with the Gaussian naive Bayes, I got the means it says, ma'am, 71% accuracy.
When you have used naive Bayes.
Yes, ma'am.
And with the decision tree, the accuracy is 72.
Yes, ma'am. 72.10%, ma'am.
Okay. So can you tell me what is the size of your data set?
Ma'am, it's an imbalanced data set means it contains, ma'am, 1,000 into 22. 1,000
Okay.
into 22. This
Okay.
means 1,000 entries and 22 columns features.
So that means there is hardly any difference between naive Bayes and decision tree accuracy.
Yes, ma'am.
To do one
Yes, ma'am.
thing, Bharti, just
Yes, ma'am.
increase your data set. Then
Ma'am,
apply.
yes, ma'am, I have also applied on the European data set, which is a very, which contains very large columns. In that case, I got the good accuracy of naive-based classifier.
Yes, that's what I'm asking you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. In that case, I got the decision tree is not performing good, but that naive-based was performing good.
So whenever you will increase the data set,
Yes,
then
ma'am.
only good comparison you can find.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, as the number of data sets are very less available, right, ma'am? And no bank is like giving their data sets. So just for to train my model, so I'm which is I'm developing. So I'm trying on these data sets which are already available, ma'am.
Okay, so in that case, sometimes we don't get the data set,
Yes,
neither
ma'am.
from Kaggle, UCI.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
we
Yes.
secondary अगर हमें
Yes,
लेना
ma'am.
है, primary, so it's not possible sometimes to get so much data. What you
Yes,
can do
ma'am.
now, you can generate the data. Like we are using the model, test data, training
Okay,
data
ma'am.
we are using.
Yes,
So you
ma'am.
can generate the data by yourself also. There are many softwares which can give
Available.
you,
Yes, ma'am.
they
Yes,
are
ma'am.
available to generate, they can generate data for you on
Ma'am,
the
can
basis
I?
of the, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, I want that the model which I'll be preparing, so that I want to test on the real world data also. So, ma'am, can I get something from the real world so that I can train my model on that?
There are many good repository, and you can get data from NICs. You can get the
Okay.
data from IISc. So you can contact people from
Okay.
there so that they can help you in providing the data.
Oh, so ma'am, they will help us, means like
Yeah,
if I
definitely
approach
they'll
them.
help you. Definitely they'll
Okay.
help you. NIC
Okay.
you can get in Hyderabad also. There's one organization from where you can get the data.
Okay, ma'am.
Hyderabad NIC, you can contact them.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
They'll
Thanks,
help in
thanks,
this.
ma'am. Thanks for your valuable suggestion. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Congrats, Bharti.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so moving forward for our next presenter, Sadia Suleiman, and her paper title is COVID-19 Risk Prediction with Regularized Discriminant Analysis and Lasso Regression using Booster 3. Sadia, are you there?
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Please start your presentation.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Hello.
Hi.
I
Yes,
think you can
Sadia,
hear,
you
right?
are
Okay, I
audible.
can continue, right? Okay. My presentation is about COVID risk protection with regularized discriminant analysis and lasso regression using booster tree. Okay, as we know, since the COVID cases are increasing, the hospital will be flooded with COVID patients. So it will be very hard to accumulate the COVID patients in the hospital. So what my methodology is that it will find the risky patients, like risky COVID patients, and they will get a better treatment over in the hospital. So whoever is not risky can take home treatment. So others can be treated in the hospital. So my proposed methodology is finding the risky COVID patients, prediction of risky COVID patients. And the literature survey I have done, many have done with that associated tree random forest, and many with linear regression and support vector machine boosting random forest and so on. Different machine learning methods are done. And what I have done here is gradient boosting machine learning algorithm, extreme gradient boosting machine learning algorithm, along with lasso regression and regularized discriminant analysis. I have compared with extreme gradient boosting, and then I compared with that. I added the feature selection and extraction process along with that extreme boosting tree. This is a proposed methodology, set of features. Data set is from Kaggle, and the feature extraction process I have done is, I said, regularized discriminant analysis. And then the feature selection is lasso regression. And then we are using the gradient boosting, sorry, extreme gradient boosting. And I got a performance of like 84%. Well, I think extreme gradient boosting tree, it's a decision tree based ensemble machine learning algorithm. It's using gradient boosting framework only in prediction problems and all. It's a software that you can download and install on your machine and access for a variety of interfaces. Well, you all know that gradient boosting is like it's combining all the weak model to create a strong model. Then about that classification report I got for extreme gradient boosting tree along with the regularized discriminant analysis and lasso regression. I got an accuracy of 85%. I have used confusion matrix, and that the classification report is also available. So, well, this method can also be used in future medical centers to prioritize risky patients, so that reducing time can be limited, and this can also be used for additional diseases, any further outbreaks or such things in the healthcare system. Then about the then about the feature extraction, that is regularized discrimination analysis. It's a generalization of linear discriminant analysis. It's a statistical method to classify observation into two or more groups. Then the feature selection, what I have used here is lasso regression. Lasso is the least absolute shrinkage. It's a regression method. It performs like both variable selection and regularization to enhance the prediction accuracy. Like we use a N1 penalty. Like it has the effect of shrinking the coefficient of variables that doesn't contribute for the prediction task. This penalty allows some coefficient values to go to zeros that will automatically perform feature selection. Well, when I did when already the comparison was done with the extreme gradient boosting tree. Before it was only 78%, and when I included this feature selection and features extraction, I got 84% accuracy using the confusion matrix and the class using confusion. Okay. Okay, but okay then.
Sadia?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I was looking for some more or depthful information from your side because the
I'm
topic
sorry,
is really
actually,
very impressive.
yeah, actually, I thought it's 8 minutes, so I thought maybe five PPT is
Slide.
enough.
Yeah,
So when I
right.
came here, I actually, yeah, I was in the hospital also. My mother is in the hospital. So, and I thought, okay, anyway, only 8 minutes, then it will be fine. But when I was shocked to see the people are presenting 20 pages, and I actually reduced it to 5. A slot like comparison was there. I thought I just, yeah, essential was, I just included that one.
It's good. At least you have presented your paper, and your mother is not well. So we wish her a speedy recovery, and
Thank
good
you,
luck
ma'am.
to you, Sadia. Take
Thank you,
care.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, shall we move for our next presenter, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I can leave, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so our next presenter is Junia Lamfen, and her paper title is Designing a Digital Shadow of Pasture Management to Mitigate the Impact of Climate Change.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I share my screen now?
Yes, you can, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Is it, can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Junia Lempani, and I'll be presenting my paper titled Designing a Digital Shadow for Pasture Management to Mitigate the Impact of Climate Change. My presentation will cover the background, problem statement, literature review, objectives, methods,
I think your voice is breaking.
Conclusion. While moving on to the
Junia,
background,
I think your voice is breaking.
introducing sophisticated technologies that include artificial intelligence. Oh, sorry. Am I now fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I start over?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So introducing okay, thank you. Introducing sophisticated and Internet of Things in livestock farming has transformed this sector to be more profitable, efficient, safer, and more environmental friendly. While this has the emerging of a smart farming concept. Smart farming is basically automated machines, IoT sensors, and remote manage the pastures to improve livestock production, there are several IoT-based pasture management systems that have been implemented that include remote animal monitoring, improved grazing techniques, as well as a virtual fencing. But however, even with the use of these systems, it is still a challenge for farmers to properly manage their pastures. So why is it so hard for these farmers to properly undergoing, the world is undergoing a climate change effect, which causes a huge variance in weather patterns, which make it very hard to predict. Pasture is a natural feed for animals. Thus, climate plays an well, as I was saying, like climate causes a huge variance in weather patterns, which make it hard to predict. While the pasture is a natural feed for animals, thus climate plays an important part in establishing the quality of the land and the pasture that grows there. And with the onset of a climate change, it has become a challenge for livestock farmers to possible for decision makers to deal with more efficiently with effects of this climate variability. While this results in having low quality pasture and limiting the farm produce, that leads to the collapse of the farms. Well, yes. However, literature reveals that digital twin technology runs accurate predictive models that can predict the future. While a digital twin is basically a virtual model designed to accurately reflect the physical object or a process. They are designed to run concurrently with the physical systems, which are generating corresponding data. This pairing of the physical systems and the virtual world enable real-time analysis and monitoring of the systems that help future predictions that will help to plan accordingly in order to prevent downtime. And then since digital run on IoT technology, a digital shadow is basically the predecessor in building a digital twin. And they are used to structure collected data so that they can be analyzed. So as I said, the objectives of this paper is to analyze the predictive models in building a digital shadow. Digital shadow is basically a predecessor in building a digital twin. And that objective is to train the digital shadow to make future predictions. And when we move on to the methods which have been carried out in building this digital shadow, historical data based on temperature was then compiled, and also the current data based on the farm, based on the rainfall, temperature, pasture height, as well as the soil moisture and the sheep weight. And then this data was then being used in MedLab to build which are linear regression and artificial neural networks. And then this neural network model was then being used to build a digital shadow based on the farm data and also perform predictions. When we move on to the results, when we compare the two outcomes of the predictive models based on the temperature for the day. The neural networks proved to be the best predictive models as the predicted values were much better than the observed values. And their performance was measured using the root mean square error mechanism, which proved that for neural networks, it had a lower value of regression, and then that proved that neural network are the best fit. And also the literature reveals that neural network perform much better than linear regression models because of their complex processing and sophisticated predictive analysis. As a result, this neural network model was then used to build a digital shadow based on the farm data, which basically predicted much closer values to the real values, which reflected the status of the pasture. While basically the temperature observed was 20 degrees and predicted was basically 19.43, and the soil moisture observed was 0 and predicted was 0.2. The pasture height 45 centimeters 3, and the sheep weight 37 kg, and the predicted was basically 36.2. And then as we move on to the conclusion, in the problem statement, we identify the need for weather prediction solution, and the prediction models which were successfully simulated prove that the neural network was the best predictive model, and therefore a digital shadow was being developed using this model and was successfully developed or successfully given the closer values which are much better in the prediction scenario. Thank you.
Very nice and quality research paper, Junior. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Junior, are you able to hear me?
Yes, okay, audible.
Yeah, Junior, you have done a very quality research work, and I can see no flaws in your paper. I wanted to ask you one question. How many parameters you have taken for the prediction, like for linear regression and for ANN?
Okay, thank you very much. So for testing, on we test, I just took the temperature parameter to just
Okay.
check yes, the temperature for each day.
Okay, that means how one parameter you have taken?
Yes, but for building the model now, I took the temperature, the sheep weight, and
yes,
yes, doctor.
and the size of the land also, na, you have taken. I think I've seen in your slide. Pasture.
Sorry.
Pasture
Yes,
bhi to
the
liya hai.
pasture
You
height
have
and the
taken
sheep weight.
pasture height, yes. So these are the parameters on which you have worked on in linear
Yes.
regression and for ANN also.
Yes. But for the pasture height, since now I've realized that the model which works better is the neural networks. I also use that only for neural networks.
Okay, Junior. So I wish you a very good luck for your further research work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, Junior. And now I have to say thank you our all authors for their excellent presentations, and all the participants for being a part of this international conference. I hope this session was informative enough. All the presenters would be getting their digital certificates through email within 2 working days. Whether all the papers have been already forwarded to the Springer. The publication will be live within 5 to 6 months, so kindly cooperate with the conference team. And I also thank our session chair, Ms. Ritu Bhargava, for chairing the session. Ma'am, there is a token of appreciation from the Global Knowledge Research Foundation and Team ICTCS and SmartCom 2021.
Thank you so much, sir. It is my honor to be the part of this renowned conference.
Thank you, ma'am, for your valuable presence.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to request all to turn on their camera for the quick snapshot and making this conference good and memorable.
Sorry, sir, I cannot, my webcam is not working, so I cannot put on my camera.
No worries, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you all the authors.
Thank you so much. Harsh, can you please share the certificate again?
Yeah,
For
sure, ma'am.
the certificate which you have shown me right just now?
Yes, just a second, ma'am. It is, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Stay safe and take care.
Thank you. Have a good day.